In this video, I want to discuss the basics of Minnesota no-fault law. Of course, Minnesota no-fault law is a compulsory coverage in Minnesota. It's designed to safeguard Minnesotans who are injured in automobile accidents by providing them with medical coverage and basic economic loss protection, wage loss. In Minnesota, there's a minimum coverage limits of $20,000 that drivers are entitled to for medical expenses and $20,000 for wage loss. Now, it doesn't mean that every driver is going to be able to get that full $40,000 in coverage, but those are the minimum limits. Of course, the insurance companies will try to keep their costs as low as possible. The medical benefits that are available through Minnesota no-fault are quite extensive. They include ambulance charges, hospital charges, surgeries if they are necessary. They pay for doctors, your family doctors, prescriptions that may be prescribed for injuries caused by an accident. And they cover a range of other holistic remedies such as chiropractic treatment, acupuncture, and even faith healing. So it's a very comprehensive medical plan. It also provides for transportation reimbursement. There's no networks that you have to stay in. There's no co-pays and there's no deductibles. The insurance company is supposed to pay from $1 and 100% of the claims. It doesn't mean they always do, but that's what they're supposed to do. In terms of economic loss protection, Minnesota no-fault covers 85% of actual wage loss, and most people have a minimum coverage, which is only $250 a week right now. We're working to try to get that minimum or the maximum cap increased, but right now, for most people that don't have optional coverage or stacking coverage, you're going to be limited to $250 per week compensation for any of your wage loss. It is compensable, however, and this is important to know, even if you have sick leave or vacation time that you take while you're unable to work because of your accident, you're still entitled to wage loss at 85% of your hourly rate. To prove up your wage loss, you're going to have a doctor's note indicating that you're disabled and why you're unable to do your job. You're also going to have to document your earnings, and the no-fault insurance companies usually like to see 8 to 10 weeks of paycheck stubs prior to the accident to try to determine an average weekly wage so they can calculate what benefits are entitled to you. There's also another benefit called replacement services. Replacement services are activities you would have done around the house, but you're unable to do because of the accident. Again, you need to have a doctor's note saying that you are unable to do these things. And if you have one of those, the insurance company has to pay up to an additional $200 per week for these services. Replacement services could include cleaning your house, mowing your lawn, shoveling snow, those types of activities. They can be more comprehensive if your normal daily activities involved something more comprehensive. People who are entitled to no-fault coverage. It's a very comprehensive plan. In fact, almost everyone who is injured in an accident while in Minnesota is entitled to no-fault benefits, whether they have their own insurance policy or they don't have their own insurance policy. Basically, the only people that can't get no-fault coverage to pay for injuries, medical expenses, and wage loss, and there are exceptions, but basically the only category of people are those that are driving their own uninsured vehicles and get into an accident. Otherwise, most everybody else is entitled. There's a list of priorities you would go to. If you were in an accident, the first priority, regardless of who caused the accident or whose car you're in at the time, you go to your own insurance policy. So if you are a named insured, you have your own insurance policy on your own car. Obviously, if you're in your car and someone runs into you, it's going to be your insurance company that pays those no-fault benefits. If you're riding in a friend's car and the friend causes an accident or is involved in an accident and you're injured, again, you go to your own insurance policy for coverage where you're a named insured. You're also considered an insured even if you're not the person that bought the policy, but if you're a resident relative. A resident relative is someone related by marriage or blood that lives full-time in a household with an insured person. So, a concrete example would be if a son or daughter is riding with a friend and they're in an automobile accident, the son or daughter would go to the parent's insurance policy as a resident relative to obtain coverage. Resident relative can be, it doesn't have to be son or spouse, it can be a cousin, it can be an uncle, it can be an in-law. If there is a relationship there and they live in the house, they're entitled to benefits through that. The next priority, if a person is involved in an accident, let's take the example of someone as a passenger now. If someone is a passenger in somebody's car and that passenger doesn't have their own insurance coverage, then, and they don't live with anyone that has insurance coverage, they have to provide the insurance company of the vehicle they are in. So the person who owns and drives the car, not the passenger, but the owner and driver of the car, is required to have insurance, which includes no-fault insurance, and it's going to be their insurance company that's going to pick up all the medical bills and wage loss, but only if you can prove that you didn't have insurance of your own or you didn't live with anyone that had insurance of their own. So that's the second priority, would be the occupying vehicle, the vehicle the person was in. Now this would include if you're on a bus, and you don't have any insurance of your own, the bus is going to have to pick up those no-fault benefits. If you are a passenger, or if you are a pedestrian, or a bicyclist, for these purposes is considered a pedestrian too, you don't have your own insurance policy or live with anyone that has an insurance policy, you're entitled to look to any involved vehicle for no-fault coverage. So if you're crossing the street and someone hits you with their car, you don't have insurance coverage through your own policy or somebody else in your household's policy, you're going to go to the insurance policy on the vehicle that ran into you for no-fault benefits. Keep in mind that fault is not an issue in these no-fault cases. Anyone who caused an accident is also entitled to no-fault benefits. Obviously, someone who is anyone hurt in an automobile accident can use the help. They're going to need medical expenses paid, and they're going to need wage loss. And in Minnesota, we've decided that everyone is entitled to those benefits, with certain exceptions. If you're in an organized race, if you intentionally hurt yourself or hurt someone, you're not going to be covered. But even if a person is driving, they're intoxicated, they run into a tree, they're going to be covered by no-fault benefits. And what I have found in my practice is a lot of times insurance people will tell these people that they're not entitled to benefits. In fact, I see it with other cases. If someone owns a car that they don't insure, but they're driving with someone and they're injured as a passenger, they're entitled to insurance through that other person's coverage. There's lots of other situations. Like I said, pretty much only if a person is driving their own uninsured vehicle will they be excluded from no-fault coverage. So if you're having a hard time trying to find coverage, get medical bills, wage loss paid, feel free to contact us and we'll help you understand the law better and how to go about getting those benefits.